Hey guys, thank you so much for logging on tonight. We're going to do something a little bit different right before we get started tonight. Please go ahead and throw up and tell me where you guys are all from. And we are going to ask our cadet that is here to brief with us a couple of questions as we get started. So come on over. Okay, so Cadet, tell me your last name one more time.
Cadet Jung, man.
Cadet Jung. So why don't you go ahead and tell me about your favorite thing that you did during Beast?
Favorite thing that I did during Beast? I will say out of many favorite things that I did in Beast, I will say going to bed was my favorite thing that I did.
Favorite thing? Going to bed. Okay. Did you guys get to go on any lovely ruck marches this Beast? You guys were mainly on West Point Cantonment area this year. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We spent our most of the time here at West Point because COVID, but we spent 3 to 4 days at Camp Berkner.
Okay.
And I have some field training experience, and that's when we did most ruck. So like there was a morning where we had to ruck with all the things that we had for like an hour, 2 hours. Early morning, nobody's talking, anything is quiet. It was a hard time, but it was a nice, like, quiet time that I had just to myself, even though I was working with other people. So, yeah, I personally enjoyed rocking. So.
Are you looking forward to this summer? Because I think you're going to get a lot more rucking in.
Yes, man, I am. I heard good things about CFT, the summer training that we'll have as a future yearling. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. So what is your favorite class this semester?
Favorite class this semester. So last round I had a pre-boxing class.
Oh, fun.
Yes, ma'am. I had a good time. It was challenging because I faced an opponent who was taller than me, had a better reach.
Okay. Yeah, I got a pretty short reach myself, so I wouldn't do too well in that class.
The funny thing is, I had a match with my partner, and I got punched in the face a few times. And right after my boxing class, I have math class in person.
Okay.
So I'm sitting in the class, zoning out, just staring at the wall because the punch and the damage that I got from the boxing class. But I'll say that
you
was
still
my
pass your class? You doing okay?
Yes, ma'am. I finished my boxing class. Last battle that I got A minus.
Okay.
So I was pretty happy.
Nice. And that class is over for you now.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Boxing. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. No more boxing.
Awesome. Have you gotten to see lovely Highland Falls? I know you guys have been able to go off post a little bit over the last couple weekends. Have you wandered into Highland Falls?
So last weekend, thankfully, we got to leave, campus within 30-mile radius. So my family, unfortunately, couldn't come to visit me because they are from Alabama.
Okay.
But my friends' family were here, so thankfully they took me out to outside, more than West Point. I got some good food, spent some good time. It was a really good time to kind of relax.
Yeah,
away from the I will say kind of little stressful and hectic life. So I spent a good time last weekend.
That's great. That is great to hear. So everybody, we're going to say goodbye to our cadet for a few minutes. We're going to do our brief. We're going to get started, and then we will have our cadet on to give you guys another brief into cadet life here in just a couple of minutes. So. Hi, welcome to all of those of you who are joining. I see we've got some people from Long Island and then all the way out into California. So it's great to have you guys here with us tonight. I am Major Rogers. I am currently the Southeast Regional Commander. I have recently switched from the Great Lakes to the Southeast. If you have any questions, I can take my mask off now. So that's great. So if you have any questions for the Great Lakes or for the Southeast, I'm going to be your point of contact through this summer. And then after that, our new Great Lakes Regional Commander will be fully in the seat and ready to answer all of your questions. But for now, if you want to email your regional team or me directly, depending on what your question is, as you are getting into that application cycle for our juniors. Okay, so tonight we're going to do our normal West Point admissions briefing. If you've tuned in before, you might see some differences, but it will be generally the same information. But for all of those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, welcome, and I hope that we are able to get you guys some great information tonight. So we're going to go through a few things. We'll talk about the West Point experience and what West Point can do for you. Then we'll talk about West Point in general, where we are located, and then we will have our cadet briefer come back up, talk to you guys about cadet life for a little while, and then I'll close it out with the application process for those of you who are juniors, or maybe if you're reapplying, or if you're a sophomore or a freshman that are tuning in just to get ready and start setting yourself up for success in your later high school years. Okay, so West Point, as our cadet said, as I can attest to, West Point can be a very challenging experience. We're going to bring you here. You're not really going to know what you're getting yourself into, okay? You think that you're going to be prepared, and West Point is going to take that to another level. We're going to challenge you, but if you made it through the application process, if we have offered you admission, we think that you have what it takes to survive. From there, it's on you. It is a mental game, but if you have troubles with your academics, if you have troubles with your military stuff, anything that you have a little bit of issues with, we have additional instruction, and we have cadets and faculty around that are there to help you out. All you have to do is ask, and we are going to be there to help you. We don't want to see you fail. We do want to see you succeed. So we're going to challenge you, but we're going to give you all the tools to overcome those challenges as well. So West Point is about choosing service to our nation. We are all here because we want to be leaders in the Army. West Point is one path of many that you can take to get into the Army. But really what we are looking at when we see our candidates is we see someone who wants to serve others. So West Point is about taking you at your raw leadership ability and turning you into the best leader that we can to lead America's sons and daughters. So like I said, we are going to challenge you. They're going to push you to your physical limits. We've got the new ACFT that is coming on board that our cadets are training for every day. We've got some really cool gyms that are container gyms. They're called Beaver Fits. Now, a quick story about the Beaver Fit. I was walking through one of our areas. I was like, oh, they named their container gym. That's so sweet. They named it the Beaver Fit. That's cute. Then I saw another one in another area, and I was like, oh, hey, to one of my friends who's a tactical officer for another company in that area. I was like, are you guys going to name your container gym? Like, what are you going to name it? He's like, it's a Beaver Fit. I was like, yeah, I know that the other one is a Beaver Fit, but what is this one going to be called? And he said, no, really, it's called a Beaver Fit. So we've got a bunch of Beaver Fits. They keep popping up all over posts. There's plenty of equipment outside for our cadets to continue to challenge themselves and to test themselves physically when they have time between classes or in the evenings or early in the morning. They're able to get out there and get after their workouts, and they don't have to wait for our gymnasium, Arvin, to be open for that. So what West Point can offer you? West Point is fully funded, okay? You come to West Point, you don't have to worry about anything. Your tuition is covered. Books, fees, room and board, you're going to live in our barracks, all of your medical, all of your dental, and you even get a monthly stipend. So some of you may be weighing West Point versus ROTCs. ROTC, unless you have additional scholarships on top of possibly an ROTC scholarship, is not going to pay for your room and board. So at West Point, you're not going to be charged for any of that. You're going to get a stipend. I think you guys get what, like $200, $250 a month as plebes?
As a plebe, $200.
They get $200 a month as plebes, and then that changes a little bit year to year as they increase in class. So our plebes, which are our freshmen, they get $200, and then I think it's $250 or $3 for our sophomores, and then it increases for as you increase in class years as well. But your tuition, everything is covered. There's no fees. There's no additional cost for anything. West Point is even going to pay to get you here. So if you get that offer of admission to West Point, if you accept that, West Point will even pay for you to get here that very first time. After that, travel's going to be on your own, but we will pay to get you here. We'll cover everything while you are here, and then they'll even pay for you to move every time that you move once you are in the Army. So what West Point offers. Now, you'll see our numbers shift slightly year to year. You'll see our numbers shift depending on what review you're looking at, but we consistently rank in the top in many categories across many different types of reviews. I know that the other academies think that they're cool. They think that they are number one, they're number two, but really it's all about West Point. We don't think of ourselves as competing with Air Force and Navy. We think of ourselves as competing with the Ivies in respect to these rankings. So West Point, you are going to commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. That's 100% career placement in your chosen path, which when you come to West Point, you know is going to be the Army. So not only are we going to pay for your education, we're going to guarantee that you have a job on the other end. Some of you candidates might be like, yeah, I'm not really thinking that far in advance, but your parents, they will be thinking about how they're going to pay for your education or how you're going to pay for your education. And then once that education is complete, how are you going to get a job? How stressful is that going to be? At West Point, it's not stressful. You know you're going into the Army. You know that you have a job on the back end after you get that degree. So these are some of the different opportunities that you'll have once you're out into the Army. These are our different branches. We've got 17 branches for those of you who are like, what? I thought there were 16. Cyber is our newest one. We have included it here. And we've also included Medical Corps here. Now, you might think, well, not that many cadets go medical. 20 cadets, about 2% of the class a year, will go straight to medical school from West Point. It is a very competitive process. So if you think that you are up to the challenge and you want to be a medical doctor, there is a path for you here at West Point, but it is going to be very competitive. Now, you're not going to have to stay in these branches the entire time that you're in the Army. For instance, I was quartermaster as a lieutenant. Quartermaster, ordnance, and transportation are all going to change at about that 4-year mark when they make captain into a logistician. And then even from there, I have now changed to a functional area. And so I will be doing some research and statistics when I leave this position as your admissions officer. But you don't have to stay in the same branch the entire time that you are in the Army. We have branch details, or people switch to functional areas, and there are a lot of different opportunities for you to switch your branch every couple of years in the Army, depending on what path you're taking. Now let's go into our little bit about West Point. Okay, so for those of you who were able to visit in non-COVID times, we're about 50 miles north of New York City. Established in 1802, we had Founders Day, I want to say about 2.5 weeks ago, maybe 3 at this point. It was on the 16th of March. And you'll see right here we have where you see the baseball stadium. Right across from the baseball stadium, you have 3 buildings. One of those is currently an academic building, but we're going through some revamping here at West Point. A lot of our barracks have been redone. They are currently renovating Bradley. I think it's going to be open this fall for them to start shifting over to redo a couple of our other barracks. This picture is West Point. This is where our cadets are all day during the academic day. You may think that West Point, maybe I think that West Point is somewhat spread out when I was late for class or I was transitioning from a physical class all the way over at Arvin, which is under the word history, all the way over to Mahan Hall, which would be under my picture right here. And that's about a 10-minute walk. Maybe it's like an 8-minute walk if you walk fast, or if you run, you can make it in a lot less time. But you don't have to bike to class, you don't have to take a bus to class, and you don't have to take a car to get to class either, because the barracks are right in between there. So everything is very self-contained in what you're going to need for that day. You see that little parking lot right there on top of that building? That is Thayer Hall, our main academic building. And, in the next couple of years, they're going to add 2 additional stories on top of that, so that parking lot will go away. But West Point, again, we're in a great location. You can visit Highland Falls in non-COVID times as a cadet. They normally get walking privileges on the weekends, and then depending on their class year, they will have different privileges as well, and they can venture a little bit further out when everything starts to settle down again. So West Point, we are all about leaders. Not only do we create leaders that stay in the government for a long time in the military side, we have people that get out after their 5-year commitment, after 10 or 20 years, and go into our civilian side of the government. And then we also have people who go into other areas, like Coach K, who's the coach at Duke. Now, Coach K is one of our probably more famous graduates, especially in recent years. And he hosts leadership talks back here at West Point pretty much every year. I think it's probably been a little bit different last year and this year. But every year, either he comes back or he brings someone else with him, and he sponsors talks to the cadets about leadership. A lot of our graduates are very, very involved with the Corps. Most of what we consider like fun activities, like our semesters abroad and things like that, those are funded by our old grads. So our graduates are very much invested in your experience as a cadet and trying to make it the best that they can in teaching you, in enhancing your experience academically, with leadership, and with extracurriculars and things like that. Our grads are very involved. They like to come back, they like to visit, and they like to pay it forward to future classes. So we're going to have our cadet come up, and we are going to talk about that cadet life.
Thank you, Major Rogers. I love her energy. I don't know if I can match up her energy as much, but I will try my best to share my personal story with you guys. And first and foremost, thank you guys for showing your interest in West Point. And I'm super excited to like I said, to share my personal experience and information about West Point with you guys today. I'm Cadet Jung. I'm part of D2, Delta Company, 2nd Reg. I'm from Huntsville, Alabama. And I'm a freshman here at the age of 23 and already have a undergrad degree in business marketing. And now you may wonder what I'm doing here as a plebe after all these years in college with a degree that I got. Even Major Rogers asked me the same questions. Even after all, I decided to come here because I believe in a statement: we grow only with discomfort. And I see my 20s as my time when I need to struggle and put myself in a situation where I face challenges, which will lead me to grow as a better person. And I thought West Point was a place to challenge myself to become a better person and a leader. So here I am, and so far West Point has been doing its job pretty well. Even after 3 years of college, I still face challenges in many different ways. By the way, I'd like to see your motives and your motivations why you want to come to West Point. So please feel free to share it on the chat. And as I go through slides, if you have any questions, also please feel free to put it on the chat as well. So one of the interesting the facts that we have at West Point is we call each class with different names. So we call freshman as plebe, sophomore as yearling, junior as cow, and senior as firstie. I think, to my knowledge, to my understanding, I think this class name reflects well on our class status and the privilege that we have. So as a plebe, I have so many plebe duty, such as calling minutes every morning, cleaning bathroom every night, doing the laundry for the upperclassmen, stuff like that. Whereas firstie don't really have plebe duties like we do, but they have more privilege, like, they get to leave every weekend, while we can only leave only once a semester. And also, as a plebe, I have to cup my hands like this whenever I'm outside, not allowed to talk outside. And these little rules are built in the system at West Point, I think, to teach cadets how to do small things right, so that way we can do bigger things right later on in this profession. Moving on to next slide. So, typical day at West Point. So as you can see, that's the timeline of the day, and this is little timeline for each activities that we have throughout the day, just to share my personal schedule of the day. Normally, I wake up at 6:30 to conduct a quick personal hygiene and dress up for the uniform of the day, and I go out in the hallway, start calling your minutes, to remind upperclassmen how many minutes there are left for the morning formation that is required for everybody to attend, no matter how early your class or how late your class starts. In normal times, we do have mandatory breakfast where we sit together and talk and have a breakfast together. But due to COVID environment, breakfast is optional. And my first class starts at 9:20. So I like to start my day by working out. I love doing push-ups, so I spend like 30 minutes, 40 minutes just doing push-ups. And after that, I'll take a nice shower, feel fresh, get some coffee, and get a quick breakfast. And that's how I usually start my day, and I've been really enjoying this, life pattern that I have here. And from 9:20, I'll start having my classes until 11:40-ish. Then I will have an hour and a half of lunchtime, and I'll do my homework in between my lunchtime, have lunch, and I love to take a power nap for like 30 minutes before class starts, because that really gives me an energy, to push through until the rest of the day strongly. And usually my classes ends by 4:25 in the afternoon. And after that, I have taekwondo practice. I'm on a taekwondo team 3 days a week. So I'll go train with them 3 times a week until 6:30. And on the days I don't have taekwondo practice, I'm doing a company athletic. I'm on a functional fitness team. So that's how I spend my evening time working out and training, a way to stay in shape. And after those sports training, we have dinner time, and we have time solely to ourselves, personal time. Usually we spend this time doing homework and getting ready for the next day. And unlike other college, we have tests. So everybody has to be back by 11:30 in the night, and everyone has to stay there since then to make sure everybody get back in time and get ready for the next day. Just to share my personal opinion, as you can see, like, the day is compacted and structured already for you. So for me, last semester, like, it was so easy for me to get lost and get caught up with so much work. But this really allowed me and to reinforce myself to be disciplined enough to sustain that healthy life, healthy habits, like such as doing my homework on time, doing my work in advance. And since I built that discipline, I got more freedom. I got like more time to myself where I can spend time doing things that I really enjoy, such as reading books, playing instruments. I like to play guitar, going out on a walk on a nice day with my friends. So it's not so bad. And I think this busy life as a cadet that I live here at West Point give me an opportunity to kind of build that discipline and see my days in a different perspective. And moving on to the next slide. So talking about class environment. So the college that I went previously, normally class size was 30 to 50. And for classes that everybody has to take, like physics, chemistry, we used to have over 100 students in the same class at the same time. So it was really hard for me to, get that personal assistance from my instructor, right? And, be engaged in the class as much. But coming to West Point, they keep the class size as small as up to 18 cadets in the class, per class. So this allowed me to be more engaged and be more involved in the class every time. And it is way easier to access to my instructor's help, assistance. And all the faculties who are here to teach classes, they're all an expert and they're all passionate about what they're doing. And you're gonna feel it like in the first second that you walk in, right? And looking at the demographic of the instructor that we have, about 30% of the instructor we have is civilian professors, and about 70% of an instructor that we have is an Army officers. To me, I thought it was interesting to have an instructor who is also your senior officer, but those people, like those Army officers, are the one who has been going through things that I am currently going through and will go through in my life later on in this profession. So more than a class time, more than a lecture time, they share their personal experience and story and lessons, life lessons that they gained throughout their time in the Army with us, and they pass down those wisdoms that they gain, over time to us. So I thought that was really unique and special that we offer here at West Point. In the bottom right, you can see the student achievement. Annually, West Point produce so many great scholars that win scholarship. This year, we won 2 cadets from West Point won Rhodes Scholars. So they're going to be in Oxford University in English, in England, pursue their master degree. I think this, like, all the resources and instructors are here to support you doing things that you want to do, and also to help you achieve your max, and also above and beyond your limits. And this achieving the student achievement really proves that point. And yeah, I think West Point offers one of the best academic environment here. Moving on to the next slide, we offer 36 different academic majors with 15 different minors. I personally declare my major as I'm doing an organizational psychology with leadership, with maybe Spanish as my minor. But one thing that I realized, right, coming from different college in the past, any major you pick from West Point will offer you the best education, and they will support you with their best ability, with a great instructor and resource to help you achieve and to help you learn to be the best you can be. So any major you pick here, you'll get the best out of it. So now you're looking at a typical 4-year academic journey, the schedule, curriculums. So there's classes that's colored in black. It's called core classes, which means that's the classes that everybody is required to take. So you're gonna spend your plebe year, your freshman year, your yearling year, which is your sophomore year, taking those core classes. So although you have to declare your major in second semester plebe year, freshman year, you're gonna have more time to kind of like reflect on yourself and find out what you really want to do. So it's gonna give you more time to kind of switch your major if that's needed. And I think, and later on, Cal year, first year, you're kind of like earning your way up to take classes that is more specialized related to your major that you pick. And as you can see, we offer military leadership classes throughout the years and specialty PE classes like I say, plebe boxing class, survival swimming. I don't really look forward to that class because I'm really bad at swimming, and combative class. And I think that really sets West Point apart from other colleges because they don't offer stuff like this, at other colleges. And to me, I think they do this to make sure West Point fulfills those 4 different pillars that we talked about before, academic, physical, military, and character, to make sure we, right, as cadet and as a future officer are ready by the time when we graduate. I'll give you another seconds to kind of look at the schedule and have an idea how your classes are going to look like when you come here. All right, moving on to the next slide. So General MacArthur said every cadet is an athlete, right? And this reflects well on our curriculum that we offer for sports. So we have so many different D1 sports programs, from baseball, basketball, rifle team, rugby team, even wrestling team. And we also offer so many different sports for women's sports too. And don't worry if you're not on D1 sports team, because we offer club sports as well, and also intramural sports. We have so many different type of sports that you can pursue your passion in the sports that you enjoy doing it. And if you were never been part of doing sports in the past, you can find something that you'll enjoy doing it. And also, I think one unique thing about the club sports and the D1 sports team is they don't only spend their time training, but they also go out of campus, compete with other universities. And that's something that I was looking forward to, but due to COVID, we couldn't really have those chances to go out and compete with other colleges, but that's something that you can look forward to have it. And personally, like I said, I'm on Taekwondo Club, so if you're planning to be here at West Point in future years, please consider checking out Taekwondo Club. And also for my company, I do a company athletic. Like I said, I'm on a functional fitness, and everyone has to join the intramural sports if you're not part of club sports or D1 sports. And that's on the right side of this the slide, so you can have an idea what are the options that you can have for your sports. All right, moving on to next slide. So this shows the summer military schedule and the curriculum that we offer here as a West Point. So the summer freshman year, the last summer that I had was a cadet basic training, which is also known as CBT or BEAST. Normally it's 6 weeks, but due to COVID we had 4 weeks. So the CBT is a training that teach you how to be a follower, right? You'll think like you'll learn how to be a leader, which is right over time. But the first step is you learn how to be your followers, because I think, and West Point says that, because good followers will be a good leaders. And before you lead other people, you also have to learn how to be a follower first. So they teach you a mindset, the concept of be at the right place, in the right uniform, at the right time, with the right mindset. All right, and yeah, there's so many rules to follow, as a new cadet, right? We say new cadet for people who are taking this training. It's not easy, but it's challenging. But that's why I was here. So I enjoyed my time doing the training last summer. And moving on to cadet field training, CFT. This is something I'm gonna have this summer. I heard great things about it. So if CBT was more individual focused and more rules, more strict environments, CFT is more relaxing but more hands-on, more practical, military stuff. Like you learn how to operate and how to perform your task as a soldier, and you learn how to work as a teammate. So you see the difference. You learn how to be a follower, and now in CFT you learn how to be a teammate and team player. And those two training leading up to CLDT, Cadet Leadership Development training, and that's when you also learn and do as a teammate, and also take a role of leadership too. And that's a training that you take as a first year summer. And we have Cadet Troop Leader Training, CTLT. That's basically a military internship. So that's a job shadow. So you're gonna spend weeks at the real army, like on a real base. So you're gonna follow either second lieutenant or first lieutenant to see what their job is going to be like after they graduate. Because to be honest, the experience that we have here at West Point is not so similar to how I'm gonna have after I graduate. So this is a path and an option for us to learn how it is gonna be like to be an actual military officer. And we have training detail. As you move up to higher class, you're gonna be the one who is leading the CBT and CFT as a squad leader, platoon sergeant, company commander, so and so. And we have individual advanced development, also known as I8, and we have military qualification school, and that which I'm gonna further explain later on this slide. So I think, to me, one thing that really makes West Point as special is this opportunities that West Point offer to you. Depends on what major and what language you take, you will have so many different opportunities to have a semester abroad in different countries like Brazil, China, France, Spain, and even other service academies in different countries for a semester long and for free. And I think you get extra pay by doing it. So this is a great chance, and this is something that I want to do as my junior year. So let's see how that goes. And since West Point carries so much value with its own name, West Point, so many good big companies like Facebook, Google, and even government agencies like FBI, NASA, White House, they offer so many internships for cadets to actually, have an actual business and professional life during the summer. Is open for so many people. So this is another good things to be here at West Point, and that we have the other colleges might not offer. And lastly, military qualification schools. We offer Airborne School and Air Assault School during summer after CFT or other leadership, the summer military training that I explained in the previous slide. So personally, after the cadet field training that I will have as a sophomore summer, I'm gonna have an Air Assault School. So I'm really looking forward to it, and looking forward to rock that school and pass it and have that a nice shiny badge that Major Rogers had on her uniform. I think this is it, and before I pass it to Major Rogers, I'd like to share just one little message that I learned over time to those who are in high school and maybe in middle school. You might be asked by other people, like your parents, teachers, your friends, what you want to do in your life. What is your goal? What motivates you in your life? And to me, those questions was a little bit uncomfortable because I had no idea what I wanted to do in my life. I'm just a senior in high school. I'm just a sophomore in high school. But I like to challenge you to actually take a moment to ask that questions to yourself. Because I had that conversation with myself, and I think I'm still in process of still asking that question and finding the answers. But I think that really gives me an idea what my priority is in my life and what I really want to do in my life. right? And that's gonna give you a better and clear idea of what you want to do, what you want to do in your life. And if that idea aligned to West Point value, then go for it. Why not? You know, I'm here at 23. I'm older than firsties and most of my police friends, but I'm running my own race with my own pace. So I challenge you guys to take a moment to ask yourself those questions. And if you find the answers, go for it, right? And yeah, and that's all. And I really look forward to seeing you guys this upcoming years. If you see me on campus, please say hi. And I wish you best luck with anything that you do. And go Army and Viet Navy. And I'll pass it to Major Rogers. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for being here and giving such a great look at cadet life to our prospective candidates. And some of them might actually be candidates right now, or maybe even accepted candidates that are going to come this summer. So thank you so much for that. And you have a great night. We don't need you to stick around if you don't need anything.
Sounds good. Thank you, man.
Yeah. So I see we have a pinned comment from Joey Donnellan. Most of our offers we're finishing up this month. So we will have onesie, twosies, just a few offers going out past the 1st of May. But most of our offers will be out by the end of this month, by the end of April. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through the application that some of our juniors are probably looking forward to getting started on this summer. And if you are a sophomore or freshman, or maybe you're even in middle school, this is what you have to look forward to in the coming years. Okay, so these are our general eligibility requirements for our candidates. You have to be a U.S. citizen. So I don't know if our cadet told you, but one of the reasons that he did not apply earlier is because he was still waiting on his citizenship to be finalized. So you do have to be a U.S. citizen when you come in for our day. He is as old as you can be. He turned 23 this past school year. So you cannot yet be 23 on our day. And if you're going to graduate high school a year early, if you're only going to be 16 on the 1st of July for the year of which you would want to come to West Point, you're going to have to do a year of prep somewhere else, do an ROTC program, go to one of the civil prep schools, because you cannot be under 17 to come into West Point. There are no age waivers for that. You can't be married, and you cannot have a child with legal obligation. Now, if you have a kid and you are 18, 19 years old, if someone else has legal obligation for that child, your parents, or that child's other grandparents, then you can still come to West Point as long as you do not have legal obligation to that child. So these are your steps to admission. So first, you're going to want to complete that candidate questionnaire. So if you are already a junior, you can complete the candidate questionnaire right now. If you are not yet a junior, please go onto our website. You can sign up for different mailing lists depending on what class year you are currently. But the 15th of January of your junior year is when you can fill out that candidate questionnaire. So I see we also have a comment about SLE. So SLE is our Summer Leader Experience, and they're wanting to know when they can find out whether or not they got accepted to SLE. So if you fill out your candidate questionnaire between the 15th of January and the 15th of March of your junior year, you can indicate to us whether or not you're interested in SLE. So SLE, we want to get that answer out to our candidates that have applied for that. And that should be either late this week, maybe Friday, but probably it's going to be into next week before you find out whether or not you've been accepted to SLE. And then we will also, at the time that you are being notified whether or not you are going to get SLE, is when the decision will come out whether or not it will be virtual or in person. We're waiting for a few things to get finalized up here before we can get that information out to you all. I know you guys are anxious. I am anxious to get that information out to you, but we have to make sure that we have everything, lottie-dottie, everybody, ducks in a row before we can get that out for you. So this is the information that you're going to need to complete that candidate questionnaire. All of your PSAT, ACT, SAT scores. So we'll talk a little bit more about test scores in general on the next slide, but have all of that information available when you are filling out your candidate questionnaire. Now, the candidate questionnaire allows you to initiate interest in West Point. That doesn't fully open your application if it is in the spring of your junior year. Our second step kits or your full application is not going to open up until the 1st of June of the year to which you're going to apply. So going into your senior year, the 1st of June, that's when your application is really going to open up. Okay, and so this is what we're going to look at for that whole application. So we have the 60, 30, 10. So 60%, that's going to be your academics. We're looking at your GPA. I know in the past it used to be rank in class. We threw that out the window, and we're going to look at your GPA now. And then we are going to look at your SAT or your ACT with the writing. We've been getting a lot of questions about the SAT isn't offering the essay. What do I do? You take the SAT without the essay because it's not going to exist past June, right? And then for the ACT, we are still encouraging you to take the writing as long as that is available. I don't know if ACT is going to do the same thing that the SAT has done and remove the writing, but while it is available, we do encourage you to take it. If we have any additions to our application, you guys will be the first to know. We will get that information out to you as soon as possible if anything changes. That's not to say that there's a change coming. I don't know. I'm just letting you know that we will tell you if things change. So take the SAT, take the ACT, take them both, take either. Take them multiple times because we do super score. I'm from Oklahoma originally. I took the ACT multiple times. Pretty competitive. I was trying to beat my sister. I eventually did. It just took a lot of tries. But so we do super score. So if you take it 7 times, like I did, and you have different high scores on each of those tests for the subsections, then we will take those from the different tests to make your ultimate score for West Point. Same thing with the SAT. Let's say that you get a 780 on the verbal on one, and your math is like a 500, because I don't know what you were doing during the math. And then on the next one, you're like, I'm going to buckle down, I'm going to do great on that math, and you pop it all the way up to 700, but you slept during the verbal portion, and you got a 600. We're going to take both of those tests, and we're going to take those 2 high scores to super score that for you. What we're not going to do is cross-test. So we will take high scores from the SAT within the SAT, all of those tests, to drive your file, and we will take all of those scores from the ACT, and we will drive your file. But we're not going to use some from one and some from the other. We're going to stay test specific, but we will super score within those tests. You send me all of your SAT, ACTs. Our system will determine which one is going to be better for you if you've taken both of those tests. So some people think, oh, my SAT is obviously going to be driving my file, but you got a 36 on the math on the ACT, and you did well on the other sections as well. And so even though you think your SAT was better overall, maybe your ACT is going to be better, but we will use whichever test is going to be better for your file overall. Then we move on to that leadership. So leadership is going to be 30% of your overall application. That's going to have your school official evaluations, your SOEs. We want to see math, English, physics or chemistry, and then your PE SOE, your physical education SOE. This cannot be done by your coach unless your coach of a sport also taught you for PE. If they taught history, but they were your soccer coach, they can't do your PE SOE. And you'll have to find another person to do that. Read your candidate instructions. It lays it clearly out in there who is eligible to do that PE SOE. Up under the leadership also is your extracurricular activities as well as your sports. So this will encompass whether you were class president, if you were a National Honor Society treasurer, or maybe you lettered in volleyball and you lettered in field hockey. All of that type of stuff is going to be in leadership. So I do encourage you to do a sport if you can, but if you don't do sports or you are homeschooled, we do understand that. And we have plenty of candidates that get accepted that don't have any sports available, but you still will have to do well on your CFA. So the CFA, yes, it is only 10% of your application. However, it is a very, very important 10%, okay? You have to pass the CFA to be eligible for an appointment or an offer. We have candidates, great candidates that do great academically, they've got a lot of leadership, and then they fail the CFA. If you only throw the basketball about 10 feet, I'm not going to lie to you, that's not going to bode well for your application. 10 feet is not very far and is not going to be passing for your CFA. Now, we don't put out what our minimums are. We will tell you what our averages are, and we'll tell you what our maximums are, and we want you to do the best that you can on all of that. For the CFA, it is a test of 6 different parts. Again, all of that information is already on our website. Freshmen, sophomores, juniors, you can already look at what the CFA, the Candidate Fitness Assessment, is. Air Force and Navy also do the CFA. It'll lay out on there exactly what we want. We have videos demonstrating all of the exercises. So please train for your CFA. Train as if you're taking it all together, and then also train each event individually, because you have to pass your CFA to even be eligible for an offer to West Point. And our application deadline is the 31st of January. It's the 31st of January. It's going to be the 31st of January this next year. It's the 31st of January. So remember that. And that's for our portion of the application. That's what I, as your admissions officer, am generally working with you on. In addition to this, you have to be medically qualified and receive a nomination, which we will get into in just a minute. Okay, so that medical qualification. The medical qualification deadline is April 15th. So for our class of 2025 that we are currently building, to be eligible for that, you have to get medically qualified by April 15th. So the DODMER, the Department of Defense Medical Exam Review Board, can be an extensive process. The earlier you get all of your application done for us on that previous slide, the earlier you're going to get released for DODMER. It takes our systems a minute to talk. So let's say that we're going to release you at the beginning of September for DODMER. DODMER doesn't really get your information to get you allowed to schedule appointments until mid-September. And then your appointments, the people have other things going on, and so you can't schedule your appointments until October. If you've recently broken a bone, if you have some other stuff going on in your medical history, they're going to be gathering all of that information, and then DODMER is going to transmit a status back to us. They'll either give us a qualified, a disqualified, or a remedial. If you get a remedial, you owe DODMER something. I don't know what that is. You owe it to them. Please get with DODMER and see what you owe them. Maybe they need another survey filled out. Maybe they're going to order an additional test. Or they want an x-ray or some imaging of something. If you're qualified, you're good to go. Stay healthy. That's awesome. If you are disqualified, we will review your file. Your admissions officer will. And if you are competitive, if medical is the only thing that is possibly holding you up from an offer, then we're going to go ahead and put you forward for a waiver. If you get a waiver, that's awesome. And you are eligible then to get an offer. That doesn't mean you're necessarily guaranteed to get an offer. That means you are competitive for one, though. And if you are medically disqualified after the waiver process, your admissions officer will call you and let you know and talk to you about that. Now, I do see another question over here about getting notified if you are not selected for SLE. Yes, we will let you know one way or the other if you are going to get SLE or not. So we're looking to get all of those decisions out, hopefully sometime next week or the week thereafter for all of them. But starting next week, we should be able to get some of that information out to you guys. So going back to the medical deadline is April 15th. So that's a little bit different, of course, from the rest of our application. But the earlier you finish your application, if you in your mind put our deadline in mid-November, that'll give you plenty of time to get everything done for medical. But the earlier the better with our portion of the application, because medical will not necessarily automatically release for you until every single piece of your application is in, okay? Get me your CFA, get me your candidate statements, get me all of the things that you personally can control. If you're waiting for your math teacher to submit an SOE, reach out to your admissions officer. Let us know, hey, I've sent it to my math teacher. They're working on some other stuff, but everything else is done. And we might go ahead and release you for medical on a one-on-one basis. But generally, we want that entire application to be done before we're going to release you to do those medical appointments. Now, a nomination. We have two different types of nominations. We have those service-connected and we have congressional. So if you yourself are a soldier, if you have completed basic training, then you are eligible for a nomination for service-connected yourself as an active duty service member. If you are the child of a career military person, which means they are 8+ years and still serving, or they served 20 years or more and have retired, then that is going to be a presidential nomination. We also have a few other service-connected over there. Please check your candidate portal once that opens and look under the nominations tab, and it's going to tell you exactly what we want for those service-connected nominations. Now, the deadline for our service-connected nominations is the 15th of December. It's the 15th of December. So if you are like, hey, Dad, like, you're so cool and you've been doing all this stuff, or your mom is, like, let's say that she's in the 101st. Yeah, go 101st, right? And she's all over the place doing great things. Get the paperwork from your parents and submit it to us before the 15th of December. We're not going to accept that in January, okay? So the 15th of December is that deadline for your service-connected nomination. Now, moving over to your congressional nominations, all of them have different deadlines, okay? So we want you to apply to your congressional representative. I want you to apply to both of the senators for your state and for the vice presidential. You cannot sit in 4 chairs at once, right? So even if you get all 4 of these nominations, you're not going to take the opportunity away from someone else. This is going to give us a different way to possibly bring you in. So the more nominations that you're eligible for, the more nominations you should apply for. Okay, but they all have different deadlines. In the Great Lakes, I managed 12 states. In the Southeast, I managed either 8 or 9, because I can't remember if that 9 includes DC or not, okay? So I manage many states. All of the Florida alone has 20-something congressional districts. I don't know what their deadlines are. I don't know what their 2 senators' deadlines are. There's no way that I can keep track of all of that information. That's on you, okay? Log on to those websites for your congressional representative, for the vice president, and for your 2 senators to see what their deadlines are and what they want. Some of them are going to have nomination committees, and you're going to have to sit basically for an interview to these boards to decide whether or not they are possibly going to give you a nomination from that source. Some of them you're just going to have to fill out a simple application. I know that when I was applying back in the mid-aughts in Oklahoma, I just filled out some applications. Somebody reviewed my file, I guess, and I got a nomination to come in. But every congressional district and every senator is going to be different. So look at those. I don't know what their deadlines are. It is not my job to know what your deadlines are for those nominations. That's on you, okay? And if you miss those deadlines, even if you have the best application I've ever seen in my entire life, you scored a 36 across the board on your ACT, you're the team captain of everything, and your teachers love you, you passed your CFA with flying colors. If you're medically qualified, great. If you don't have a congressional nomination, there's nothing I can do for you. Okay, that is our legal authority to bring you into West Point. So you have to get a nomination, and that's why we encourage you to apply to all sources that you are eligible for. If you don't even try, the answer is automatically no. Okay, the worst they can tell you is, maybe work on this and try again next year. Okay, but if you don't even try, then you're just taking yourself out of the running entirely. Okay, so this is our application strategy. Be proactive, be early. Set earlier deadlines for yourself and meet those. That way, you know that you're going to get everything completed by the 31st of January. If the ACT and SAT are available in your area, I would really suggest that you take one or both multiple times if you can, whatever is available to you. And then you've got your local field force out there. They are there in your local area to help you with your application. And so you'll have a field force member, might have around 20 candidates in their files that they're looking at any given time versus the 1,000 plus 2,000 candidates that I could be looking at any given time. So they can give you much more one-on-one attention than I can as your regional commander. And then remember your deadlines, the 31st of January and the 15th of April. Now I want to go back to the CFA for a minute. And I know, you're like, why does she care about the CFA? I care about the CFA so much because I hate it. I hate it when we have candidates that are disqualified for failing their CFA. I hate it when you submit your CFA on the 31st of January and it's not going to pass because I can't give you a retest. Okay? I want you to take the CFA early, and that way, let's say in October, you throw that basketball 10 feet for some reason and you submit that CFA. Okay? I can give you a retest in October. I can't give you a retest in January. So take your CFA, train for your CFA before you take it, do everything in sequence. Because if I told you, come up here and do push-ups right now, when you're nice and fresh and rested, maybe you can do 75, which is our max. Push-ups, good form, it's great. But if I have you do a lot of other exercises, and then I have you come up to do all of these push-ups, maybe you're not gonna do 75. So that's why you wanna train for your CFA, each event individually and in sequence, okay? I hate seeing good candidates that are ineligible just because they fail that CFA. So please take it seriously and do your best. So like our cadet said, think about why you want to come to West Point. Your mom, your dad, your grandpa, your best friend's older brother or sister, or maybe your cousin, they came to West Point and they're pressuring you to apply. But they're not going to be the ones that are going through hanging out with the bears in the field. I haven't seen a bear, so for those of you who've seen my other briefings, I still haven't seen a bear, but it's April, so it's starting to get warm. I'm hopeful that I'll see a bear this year. I'm very excited. But we have bears. Your mom, your dad, they're not going to come hang out with our mosquitoes and our bears. It's going to be you, okay? So do you want to be here? If you don't, it is not going to offend me that you don't want to come to West Point. And the earlier you realize your own path, the better, okay? So ask yourself why you want to come, not why somebody else wants you to come, but by why you want to be here, okay? So SLE, that Summer Leader Experience. So our applications have already closed for this year's SLE, because like I said, the deadline was the 15th of March. But for those of you who did apply, or for those of you who are not juniors and are going to be applying next year, SLE is our Summer Leader Experience. And what that is that's like a little taste of West Point. And sometimes that can be the best way to give you like a good view of what West Point would actually be like if you came to West Point as a cadet. So again, the application is mid-January through mid-March, and then SLE actually is, sometimes it's the last week of May, but it's generally the first 2 weeks of June. And there are 2 one-week sessions that we conduct for SLE. Air Force and Navy, they also have their own versions of a summer experience. And so if you're interested, you should look at all of them. I did the Air Force's version of SLE. I think it was SLS at the time. And I really don't like airplanes. So while I applied to both Air Force and West Point and got accepted to both, I ultimately chose West Point because I was like, airplanes, they aren't really my thing. But if you like jets, if airplanes are your thing, look at Air Force. Air Force, Navy, Army, we are all great. We are very competitive as well. But if you really like boats, if you really like airplanes, maybe you should look at those other branches as well, because we all need great leaders and we're all in that same fight once we graduate together. Okay, so follow us on Facebook. We've got Instagram, we've got our YouTube, and we've got our West Point admissions as well. Now, what you don't see up here is we also have westpointadmissions.com. We've got a virtual map on there, which I think is actually a pretty good rendition. You should check it out. And there are also other videos of cadets and things. And we're getting a virtual tour set up with UVisit. They're doing some filming next week. They're going to clean it up and make it nice and pretty and put it out there for you guys. So be on the lookout for that. So if you have any other questions, go ahead and throw those up in the chat, and we'll answer a few questions right now before we close out. So I see a question from Barbara, about will West Point require COVID vaccinations? So for our accepted candidates, if you get vaccinated, we will require that information. And if you choose not to get vaccinated or you don't have the opportunity to get vaccinated, then we will require a negative PCR test. I think it's within 3 days of your R-Day. So pay attention to the information for our accepted candidates on that. Right now, there is no 100% requirement that you get the COVID vaccination. The CDC obviously recommends that if it is available, that you get it. I know that I've gotten it, and a lot of our cadets have already gotten their first dose as well. Oh, and yes, thank you so much to Captain Winters for throwing this up about the videos for the CFA. I didn't even mention that. I'm harping on the CFA, and I don't even talk about the videos. Okay, so we do require videos of your push-ups and your pull-ups. Air Force and Navy do not require this. If they do their summer experiences in person and you are able to take the CFA with them because you applied to all of the summer experiences, you wanted to get a taste of everybody, we do accept those results, but we will also still require the videos of your push-ups and your pull-ups, okay? Pull-ups. These are chin-ups, pull-ups, palms facing away, okay? Make sure that you're fully extending your arms and you're coming all the way up above that bar. I don't want to see just your nose above the bar for your pull-ups, okay? I want to see your chin above and parallel. So we have videos of all of what we expect on our website, straight on your candidate portal. Once that opens into the second step kit, there are links to each individual exercise that will show you exactly what we are looking for. If you question, are my push-ups good enough? Are my pull-ups what they're looking for? Have your video on your phone, watch it right next to our video on a laptop, and see what the difference is, if there is one. And that way, that'll help you determine whether or not your videos and your exercises are what we are looking for. And yes, Brian, thank you so much. If you don't get selected, are there opportunities to reapply? Yes. So you can reapply as long as you meet our requirements, that basic requirements. We threw up that slide a little bit ago. Where you are between the ages of 17 and 23, that's one of the most important ones, and that you are a U.S. citizen. So if you don't get accepted your first time, you can always reapply. We have so many candidates that don't get accepted that first time. They go out, they do ROTC for a year or two, they reapply, and then they are ultimately accepted. So about a quarter to a third of the Corps is not coming straight out of high school. They're coming from one of our prep programs, or they did ROTC. Maybe they didn't do ROTC, they just did regular college, or they were a soldier in the Army out doing great things. But we do have plenty of people that do not get in on that first try, and they get in on a second or third try. What should you be aiming to get on your SATs? So I would say be looking at 600 or above for each of those subsections will make, obviously, the higher you're able to score, the more competitive you're going to be. But I would say aiming for at least over 600 are going to make you a more viable candidate for us. We do have pretty rigorous academics. So while our classes are small and our instructor ratio, that's a really small ratio, or a good ratio, right? And you'll get a lot of individual attention. We do want you to come in at a certain level so that we can take you up a notch. So look to aim at 600s and above for your SAT for both sections. Now for your ACT, okay, aim for 24, 25 and above. Same thing, the higher the better, but mid to upper 20s is going to make you a viable candidate for us. If you're scoring a 19 on your ACT across the board, I would say hit some study materials, hit those books, study up a little bit, brush up especially on your math, and try again, and try to get into the mid 20s or higher so that we can take you to that next level when you come here for West Point. So Kara, I see that you're asking about our day for the class of 2025. So we will be having it over a couple of days due to COVID, and we're just trying to make sure that all of our candidates are brought in safely. So if you are an accepted candidate, please don't make your travel arrangements. Don't try to make your travel arrangements, and wait for your specific R day to be published to you, which should come out in mid to late May. So it is going to be over 3 days this year. Okay, so I see a question. Can you get the self-selected nomination from your Navy JROTC instructor? So if you are in Navy JROTC or Air Force, then you have to be in an honor unit with distinction to be eligible for that nomination. And I see you also ask about the Army recruiter for the other nomination, which is different from JROTC, is you have to have completed basic. So if you have completed basic prior to April 15th of the year in which you would come to West Point, so if we have people that are at basic right now that started their applications before they left, as long as they finish basic before the 15th of April, they are eligible to come in with the class of 2025. Okay. If you guys have any other questions, go ahead and throw them up. But if you don't, thank you so much for tuning in. Please check us out on all of our social media channels and the websites that we discussed, and we'll chat with you soon. One more we see from Chris. Is it easier to gain admission through a prep program at West Point? Now, I wouldn't say that it is easier, because our prep programs are also very competitive. What we do as your admissions officer is you don't apply for those separately. For the West Point specific one, like USMAPs. So you apply, your admissions officer is reviewing your file, and you're like, I don't think that this candidate is going to get an offer this year, but I really like whatever it is about this candidate, and I think that they would make a great cadet. And so then we put those all into a pile, and we talk to our boss, and we're like, hey, ma'am, I really like these candidates, and I think that they would be great cadets, but they need to get better on math, because I see that, Henry, you talked about math is not great, but let's say that you're phenomenal at English, but your math needs some work. So we'd look at your file and be like, you're a great leader, you played all sorts of sports in high school, but your math needs some work. And so we could put you forward possibly for the prep school at that point, for USMAPs. And then we also have civil prep. So we have candidates all the time ask, how do I apply for the prep school? Well, you don't apply specifically for the prep school, you apply to West Point, and then your admissions officer will determine if you could possibly be a good fit for the prep program. If you are interested in the prep school, if you are not offered direct, that is something early in the admission cycle that you should communicate with your field force and your, admissions officer about. And that way they can flag your file so that when we're coming around to review, which we've been doing recently, those files for consideration for the prep programs, then your file will already be in the possibilities that they were thinking of. So, well, if that is all, I hope you guys have a really great night. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the other side.